but here we are. So let's have a great Q&A. We really appreciate all our very valued and loyal shareholders who especially take the time to have these transparent Q&As with us. We love engaging with our shareholders, and we're very appreciative of that time that you give us. And of course, any questions, concerns, or optimistic, great comments to support the vision and the strategy that we feel we're doing so well. So first off, as always, I'm Todd Shapiro, the CEO, director, founder of the company, and we do these, likely every 6 to 8 months. We try to always communicate with the shareholders through these measures, and the team changes at times. So our former CFO, David Ascott, actually took a great opportunity for himself and his family. We were very happy with his tenure here at Light Holland. He's moved on extremely amicably. He's still a very good friend of mine today. Actually, we're looking to do Caesars at some point over the next couple of weeks to catch up. But in the meantime, we have a new CFO, and his name is John Schur. And John has come on as one of these sort of temporary fractional CFOs in the interim, but we're really getting to know John, and John was tremendous. He stepped up right in July, in the heart of our audit, in the heart of when we had to file our year end, which we've always done in a timely fashion. And we're so grateful for John's services. He's been tremendous with us, of course, helped with Q1, and now he's helping as part of strategy and working with the team that you see here, Shashkez, Troy Dufour, and obviously there's a lot of others that filter down throughout North America and of course right into Europe and in the Netherlands, where a big bulk of our business is. I'll hand it over to John right now. John can give a quick update of Q1, which we filed about 3 weeks ago, and then he'll throw it back to me and we'll get right into the Q&A. So thank you so much again for being here.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate the comments. Welcome to all the shareholders. Looks like another great turnout. Our financial statements and MD&A for Q1 2025 were filed on August 29th. Overall, we were really pleased with our overall Q1 results. I would like to highlight a few things. Revenue in Q1 was a record 1.6 million, up 30% from last year's revenue of 1.2 million, and up 22% over last quarter's revenue of 1.3 million. Gross profit remained healthy and strong at over 40%, but down from last year. Gross profit was slightly higher than last quarter. The overall decrease is largely related to product mix across the companies, and increased supply chain costs and seasonality also had an impact. We are very happy that our cash burn on or operating profit before non-cash items continued to come down in the quarter. Cash burn was 562,000 for the quarter, down 27% from last year of 765. This really speaks to our continued top-line growth and reduced costs that we continue to experience. I would like to note that our cash balance remains very strong at 14.13 million, slightly down from last quarter of 14.37 million. These numbers both include restricted cash, which has been categorized separately on the balance sheet and represents collateral and security held by our banks for the convertible debenture and the letter of credit. I will now like to pass it back to Todd for any further comments.
Thanks, John. Thanks for that update. And once again, thanks again for stepping up with the company so efficiently and so quickly. We really appreciate it. It's not easy working with auditors. We value them, of course, as well, but it gets pretty down right to the nitty-gritty of everything. And whether you're a S&P Fortune 500 company or a microcap company, you're viewed at just the same. Audits are taken very, very seriously, and John helped us get us through with our entire team. Maggie, is there any way to get like individual views when we talk? I'm not sure if that's happening for the recording purposes.
I'm seeing everyone on speaker view right now, so I just see who. I think it depends on the individual person.
Okay, great stuff. Okay, so that's fantastic. So we'll jump right into it. Of course, as I said earlier, we have Shashkez, who's our CTIO and deals with a lot of the R&D. We have Troy Dufour, our national sales VP of sales, who's really helping with sales channels and advancing our products. And myself, of course, jump in and ask any questions. So what we'd like you to do is raise your hand, your virtual hand. We've done this in the past before. Maggie will unmute you. We'll ask that you come on camera or not come on camera. Please do not be obscene. And we're here for you to answer any question. Who'd like to go first? Okay, I see Stu. Yeah. Hey, Stu.
There. How are you doing today?
Yeah, how are you, man?
Yeah, doing really well. First
Good.
off, I just want to say I'm invested with the company. Thank you very much for doing these Q&As. I think it's really awesome how transparent you guys are constantly are. So my main question is, as a Canadian-based company, obviously we had weed legalized a few years ago, but in the current election, we're kind of seeing a lot of back and forth on drug policy. Where does that kind of sit for Red Light Holland in terms of the Liberals are a little more open to it, Conservatives are a little more closed off to it? Where does Red Light Holland kind of see the future of legalization of different substances within Canada?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll start and then I'll sort of throw it a little over to Shashkas as well. But listen, as I say in most of these Q&As, I really try to avoid projecting what governments are going to do in the future. I don't want to give any misleading information. What I can tell you is like we're always advocating. I mean, we just had Tony Clement the other day in Ottawa. He's a former health minister of Canada, minister of health. And he's always picking brains and trying to figure out where it goes. And of course, Tony was on the conservative side in his day. Um, it's interesting. I think there's, my personal opinion on it is I think there's so much political turmoil right now that we're not really seeing governments kind of making this one of their priority issues in terms of psilocybin specifically. We're seeing a lot happen with the decrim and then recriminalization of drugs. It's my personal take that we shouldn't group all drugs together and that psilocybin should be in a category of its own because of the proven benefits on how it helps with trauma, how it helps with anxiety, how it helps with focus. And Sarah can talk about the science of it. That's now proven. I personally don't love these centers where they hand out needles and hand out opportunities for people to stay on drugs. I think that it's a really tricky, sensitive issue for sure. The thing that really gets me though, and this is the policy that I'll stand by all the time, and I'm going to fight for, and I'm going to fight for it as long as I'm the CEO of this company, and probably as long as I'm alive, is the fact that our Canadian government currently is allowing medically assisted suicide, and I get it in certain cases of terminal illness, of severe trauma, of trying every single last resort that you're, allowing someone medically to die because they've made that conscious decision to do so. And, I'm not going to get anyone's way of personal choices. But my frustrating point with the governments now is we're seeing some of those medically assisted suicides being allowed for people who are having trauma, severe trauma. So, what the confusion for me lies in the fact that why aren't we allowing them to try a naturally occurring substance, at least as the right to try as a last resort before they choose the medically assisted suicide? And that's some of the stuff Shashkas can talk about the beautiful transformations that large dose of psilocybin is doing, even small microdosing in terms of getting your mind in a much better place and really truly helping with mental health issues. So this is one of the stuff that we're pushing for. I would say that that's more of a conservative leaning issue where the conservatives do not like this medically assisted suicide. Also, my gut tells me that the Conservative Party would much rather help now and immediately a post-traumatic stress disorder in veterans and soldiers and first emergency responders. They're very true to that. So, I don't want to get into, which party we like, which ones we prefer. Everyone's got their own choices. With that being said, if I were to lean to one that I could probably advocate closer with, it might be the Conservative Party, but it doesn't mean that we're not trying everything we can with the Liberal Party as well. So ultimately, some decisions will need to be made. I heard of a great phrase called the overturn effect. And basically, to sum up the overturn effect is, it's the impossible, the impossible, the impossible until it's just not impossible anymore. It's overturned. And we saw that with cannabis. We're seeing that even in the United States now with sort of the acceptance of the digital dollar and cryptocurrencies that, no one thought these things could happen. Think of Elon Musk and Tesla in the day. No one thought electric vehicles could happen. And then one day it just like happened. And then Ford's doing it. And then GM's doing it. And Rivian's doing it. Like everyone's just doing it. So, my thought is at some point we will have this overturn effect within psilocybin and a potential legalization of magic mushrooms or magic truffles. So, my goal is that public perception's changing, stigma's changing, pressures are on regulators and policy change for a substance that is so easily accessible, if we want to be honest. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I mean, Canada Post will deliver this to your door. And of course, I can't encourage and employ that for our Canadian friends, but it's absolutely one of the easiest substances to buy. And it makes it very frustrating for a company like ours. And, again, not to sound repetitive, but here we are paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars in audits. We are, our listing fees alone, doing everything with great corporate governance. And of course, being a self-regulatory company with the great strict measures that we put in place in the Netherlands on how you access our product, whether it's through, contraindications that you see, this access to telecounseling support, using our consensual app to learn data that we've shared with Drug Science and David Nutt. I mean, we think we're doing absolutely everything right to show governments that this is the way, if legal one day, it should be consumed absolutely responsibly, adult access, but with that right to try, because we all need self-healing right now. It's a really crazy world. So sorry for the long-winded answer, Stu, but I can't predict which government's going to lean what way, but I do believe, and my gut tells me that at some point this, think of it as this overturn effect, that yes, maybe it appears impossible, but at one day it just sort of changes on a dime.
Yeah, so I can add a little bit. I think, Todd, your answer was very correct, that we're doing everything we can to really explain to governments that psilocybin is something different, right? It's not only a natural product, but we also have a lot of evidence that it's not only beneficial for mental health, but it's not addictive, and it can in fact help people deal with their addictions and get rid of their addictions. So we have a lot of data, a lot of reports. We're working with governments. We've helped fund Therapsil's lawsuit, right? That's still ongoing. We don't know what the future of that is going to look like. I can tell you that outside of Canada, sorry, we are seeing, sort of initiatives happening. Massachusetts is going to be on the ballot for the US. We're seeing New Jersey has a bill that's progressing. Arizona, Hawaii have new bills. So as these bills move forward in the US, I believe Canada will not want to be, the last one standing. But how long is that going to take? We don't know. We need to be careful, and we need to keep pushing, all of us, as this goes. It is also up to us. That's what I always say. Yep.
Stu, any follow-ups?
No, honestly, I was kind of surprised when you said the conservative thing. I'm more right-leaning myself, so to hear that was actually kind of encouraging that. But no, that was a great answer. Thank you to you both. I appreciate
Conservatives
your time.
also in the US are actually very for this, right?
Really?
There's
Okay, I
a
wasn't
lot
aware
of
of that.
support for the veterans, right?
Mhm.
They know this can really, really help veterans. And we're unfortunately seeing liberal governors block some of these bills, like in California and Washington. So this was also, a surprise to me sometimes. But there's actually quite broad spectrum support. And then a few key figures seem to be blocking this for their own political ideas, or I don't know even, why this is happening. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Stu, full disclosure. I mean, Sarah's put together an incredible document that shows all the conservative support across America and Canada. And that's something we like to share if we ever have an opportunity to talk to MPs or just, the other day I happened to meet a former senior police officer, now retired, who literally came up to me and was really open about the fact that he's learning a lot of police officers and retired ones, especially, who dealt with, really tough careers at the end of the day, are learning about microdosing. And he started asking me about it. And then I shared with him after that report. And of course I get feedback. Oh my goodness, this is so wonderful to hear. So, there are conversations being had. Again, if on terms of the forward looking and policy change, there's no predictions on my end because it could happen tomorrow or it could happen 5 years from now or never at all. But, we'd like to think that, again, we're doing our part with education and information, and that's all we can do at this point. But people's ears are perking up and people's eyes are opening up to it. And most importantly, stigmas are ending. And that is what I love to hear. You think about the fact that we've been publicly traded now for over 4 years. I feel like every year does feel like a decade, but at least we're moving forward a decade in a way. Like at least, there's people who would never mention it. Say, when you're golfing, you might not expect, a certain golfer to talk about microdosing magic mushrooms, but all of a sudden it comes up in conversation. So, the stigmas on our side, which of the knowledge we already know, we should end as well, because we shouldn't judge about who's going to be talking about this stuff and who's going to be super positive and bullish on it being an important substance to help human beings.
Yeah, no, great answers from you both. I really appreciate that. The document that you said that Sarah made where you show it to MPs, is that available on the website anywhere for like investors to see, or is that something you kind of keep behind a
Um,
wall just for the time being?
Yeah, I see my lawyer's name on here, but I think that's something we can share. Like it's all just like cited
Okay.
data, right? And so, Sarah, we do have a great mushroom benefits a document on the front page of our website, which I encourage everybody to read. I don't know how many people have accessed it, but it's just amazing to see scientifically benefits of beyond just psychedelic mushrooms, but our shiitakes, our oysters, etc.
Mhm.
I think we should probably look to put a link to that as well up on the website. I don't think we're gonna have an issue. If you don't see it there, it's because maybe there was something that
Yeah.
maybe deemed forward-looking or material, but I don't think it will be. I'm sure we'll be able to put it up.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you both.
Of course. And by the way, share it to your MPs if we're allowed to put it up. Let's get this information out there. Okay, more questions. Perry,
Hi, Todd.
how are you, Perry?
Good. I'm good. I have some simple questions. First, I'd like to state that I really like what you guys are doing and all your efforts. Please keep them up. In fact, if you can even elaborate more on your getting in with Costco and your latest press release, that'd be great once I hang up. One thing that I like as an investor is to see your shares trade. A lot of companies they trade by appointment. You obviously as are being watched, and I really, really like that. It's really cool. And that takes a lot of work, having been in the business once. And do you think, I don't know if you can answer this, maybe your CFO can answer it, but do you think there are some short sellers in our midst, so to speak? Because really you're not trading, in my opinion, where you should be trading. And I'm no analyst, but if you could just maybe elaborate on those, and I'll mute myself now. And again, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Perry. Thank you for showing yourself as well. We really appreciate everybody's transparency the same way we are. Let me deal with the liquidity and the trading first, and then I'll go back to sort of this Costco relationship that we have. Yeah, listen, a lot of a CEO's job beyond the operations and kind of being a great conductor to an incredible team and making big decisions is getting out there and always sharing our story with institutional investors. And while we obviously completely love our retail support, which there's a ton of you, and I haven't seen the latest Nobu list, but we will see that shortly. And obviously we're at October 31st, we'll have our AGSM, so we'll really get a good idea of the amount of shareholders in the company. But I get out there all the time, and like it's tireless, to be honest, because some people in the institutional microcap game, they don't really want to talk to a lot of CEOs at this point. Access to capital is way different than it's ever been. I mean, we're at an all-time low. If you're to look at access to capital, money being raised for these microcap companies, maybe the odd mining deals getting access to money. Maybe there's, just some sort of friends and family jumping in, some private placements and stuff. But it is a slow time in the capital markets on this side of the border. Don't get me wrong, stuff like the S&P all-time highs, even TSX is doing quite well, the venture exchange, but CSE is difficult, and so is the Neil exchange, whatever they call it now. But I get out there and I like to think that helps in liquidity. I think that, all of a sudden, like someone's like, when I say, hey, we're look what we're doing, look at this new Costco release. Like I'll make sure that gets on the front desk of some of these big traders. So a couple of days ago, we saw, I think, 3.5, 4 million shares traded. And while it wasn't a ton of money exchanging hands, to be honest, because it's still, very unfortunately, the price is where it's at. But I'd like to think there's something to do with me getting out to new buyers, which I'm always trying to do, and sharing the Light Holland story. And obviously everything we've written in the MD&A, which is the stuff we can basically talk about today, and I share. It shows optimism. It shows growth. It shows strategy, and it also shows delivering on what we said we would deliver on. So And it also shows acknowledgments to the mistakes we've made. And I think a lot of institutional investors really appreciate that. They get that growing a business is a struggle. They're not just fresh and new into it. They have analysts. They've looked into this stuff forever. So there's a lot of that. And yes, we're trading a lot better than many of the other psychedelic companies right now as an average. So we should be pleased about that in a really difficult sector at this point. And part of my strategy, and I'll be careful how I say this, but as we grow the business, I absolutely want our company and our shareholders to be able to be around for what we believe will be another great cycle coming back into this industry the more we hear news. And it's not just going to stop. Like it's not like all of a sudden the news is just going to fall off the cliff when it comes to psychedelics and psilocybin in particular. Like there will be more conversations around this. It's not going away, whether it's initiated from our company or the Compasses of the world, or just news documented news stories on ayahuasca retreats or whatever it is. There is a lot of information still to come in the psychedelic sector. So as we carefully and cautiously grow this business, for me, one of the most important strategies is absolutely having a strong horse in the race. So when all the eyes come back on it again, that they're looking at Light Holland as a company that's growing revenues, decreasing burn, very, very, very strict with their cash position, not, just spending it wildly, thinking they can go and raise another $20 million, because that's probably not going to be as easy these days as it was 3 years ago. So, that's part of the strategy as well, but it's never to take the eye off the prize, to use a terrible pun, meaning grow a business, head down, focus, grow revenues. And we're doing everything we can as a small team to do that. And that leads me into Costco. I mean, this is, keep in mind, we're 4 years publicly traded. We went public on a concept to grow magic truffles and standardize psilocybin with homogenized capsules, from underground to mainstream, and do this with the standardization of a Schedule I drug in most of the world. And I'd like to think we've done really well at honoring what we are doing with that original concept. Then we only made a pivot like a couple, 2.5 years ago, I believe, into just regular mushrooms, realizing that it truly adds to the story. And for new shareholders, and even for old ones, just to refresh them, part of my strategy, I went to my board of directors and I said, listen, maybe we can get into the home grow kit business of mushrooms. So like, why would we do that? I said, well, when Canada legalized cannabis, what they did was they allowed every adult to have, I forget now, 3 or 4 plants to grow in their home. So maybe one day, if and when regulations permit, maybe it'll be a similar policy that maybe one day magic mushrooms will be legal, and then they would allow every individual to have a home grow kit in their home. So that's where it dawned on me, like, why don't we market and brand legal mushroom home grow kits now? And we think we're doing an absolutely tremendous job of that with shiitake, lion's mane, and oyster. And while that will be a very separate thing way down the road, obviously, if and when regulations permit, like I said before, to the fact that only 2.5 years ago, we're sitting with a new mushroom company in fresh mushrooms and home grow kit mushrooms, which is a consumer packaged goods product, which is a really difficult product from production to shelf life, logistics, shipping. It's not easy to ship fresh produce in a way that grows a little bit later. And we're so proud of Troy and the entire team in terms of getting us into Costco, maintaining this Costco relationship. We're always doing our very best to update everything, speaking with them, conversations with them. It's not always easy with these huge retailers. You really got to appease them, and you really got to listen to them and listen to their wants and their needs. And what I love about them and admire about them, much like what we're doing today with our shareholders and hopefully our end consumers, is they value their consumer so much. And that is a reflection of the products they carry. So, I also learn in these meetings from Costco how important a consumer is. So for us now to have, a huge order go into Costco's 82 stores. Prior to that, it was 67 stores. Our goal is always to grow this relationship. There's no sureties, by the way, when you're dealing with retailers. I want to be very clear. All we can do is our very best to get them in the product, get them into the stores the way we said we would, get them packaged properly the way we say we will. Obviously, we love doing these extra promotions. It helps to have a good social media following, to be able to tell people to go to the Costco's, to be able to release the stores online. And we're so proud of this relationship. And, one of the things I'll implore and encourage everyone here listening is, please look at that list and buy a home grow kit, because that supports the vision of the company. Let your friends and family know. They're always running over to Costco. For 20 bucks, it's like a no-brainer in our minds. So we love the Happy Caps brand. We're very excited about future developments of the Happy Caps brand, and we're really, really pushing it. It's organic, it's authentic. And again, like, being in Costco is huge, but also Canadian Tire, Longo's, your independent grocery stores. This is a really good job from a small company that we saw some vision and absolutely expanded it to where it's at today, and we'll continue to hustle for it to hopefully only grow from here. But those scaling up is difficult. Maintaining relationships is difficult. But ultimately, Perry, Happy Caps is a massive focus of this company, and we think we can grow it in North America, outside of Canada, and into Europe as well. I hope I answered your question.
So I was trying to unmute myself. Yes, you have. Thanks. And thank you for all your efforts. Keep it up, Todd and gang and everyone else. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Perry.
I'm a happy investor.
Much appreciated. Any other questions? How many are on here, Maggie?
There are 53 people. That includes our team. And just a reminder, if anyone's looking how to raise their hand, you just click the reactions button at the bottom and it should give you the option to do so.
Hi, James.
Hey there, Todd.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just curious with I guess the success of Happy Caps, are you looking into expanding or taking over any other smaller companies in south of the border or north?
M&A is always something I'm focused on. It's very interesting. Having a strong cash position is like a blessing and a curse, I call it. The blessing is it's amazing for us to grow our businesses and grow our company patiently and cautiously. And part of the curse is you get, probably 5 to 7 companies reaching out to us weekly to help try to save their company. We've seen a lot of failures in this sector, a lot of failures in CPG products. You think of mushroom supplement companies, you think of companies that are similar into our space, whether it's vaping companies or whatever. So we get a lot of inquiries like, hey, could we do some M&A together? Could we use some of your capital to help grow our company, because we've gotten X far with the 20 or 30 million we've raised, but now we need more for inventory. We need more to scale. We need more. So yeah, we're always looking is the long-winded answer. Again, I'm sorry, I'm always long-winded. Feel free to cut me off. But right now, not a lot is popping out, because we feel at this point it will just contribute to our cash burn. Where M&A does look exciting is if you can use your stock to acquire a company and not use a lot of your stock. But I hate that the stock's low, because then it's dilution maybe. So maybe you could, work with the company and say, hey, take less stock at X value, seeing the vision where we think it could be. So that might be alluring to a company on an M&A sort of potential discussion. And the other thing that's kind of interesting with that is, like, we could say, hey, and we'll commit X amount of dollars to fund your growth, call it $1 million to fund this growth initiative. And then if you hit certain sales targets, maybe we could, give you sort of extra RSUs or stuff. So that's the way these types of conversations go. But I mean, Troy and I go through, and when David was here, we went through a ton of financial statements, and a ton of data rooms were opened up. And the more nitty gritty you get into a lot of these companies, man, is there a lot of debt? Man, is there a lot of extra inventory that's either close to being expired or stuff they can't sell? Yeah, a lot of mismanagement, a lot of overpaying, for listing fees or salaries, whatever it may be. So it's sort of, in a way, is a good pat on the back for our company, how we continue to grow cautiously, patiently, and obviously carefully. Whereas I think a lot of others just assumed access to capital was coming, so they didn't really care on how they spent that money in the short term, thinking it was coming in the long term. But right now, nothing's really jumping out. But I have these conversations easily, you know, five, 6 times a week with a lot of companies, and south of the border as well, like you mentioned. In the meantime, what we like to do, as you saw in yesterday's announcement, is we love partnering with companies. And partnering with companies is really beneficial. So yesterday we announced that we partner with a company called Trailbridge Farms in Oregon. And they make incredible home grow kits. We've vetted them with our farmers. They have a really good business on their own. And a lot of these farmers aren't necessarily in the mood to get behind a consumer packaged good product like a Happy Caps. They're fine with just selling their blocks or their fresh mushrooms. And part of the reason why they don't like to get behind it is time consuming. It's an absolute pain in the ass sometimes. You know, listen, there are customer service needs that you now need to have a whole team for. There are shipping and logistics issues that you need to constantly be putting fires out from. And so it's like, it's sort of a different ball game. And so here we are finding great producers that are like, oh yeah, we'll produce your home grow kits for you because it's no competition to us. We don't want to get into that. We thought we did, we were trying it, but it's just not for us because it's way too time consuming for small teams. And you know, we're better, we think, marketers, branders, et cetera. So partnering with companies is great. I was very fortunate to have a dinner with a very high executive, a very famous company. And I know it sort of sounds like I'm name dropping here, but I won't drop the name and I won't drop the company out of respect to his privacy. But we're talking like Fortune 500 company, and he was on the C-suite level for like decades. And one of the things he said when he asked me about the business is he loved the strategy of not going too crazy, of kind of figuring out that we can do all the production, because that's where a lot of companies, he said, fail. If you could find co-packagers for you who can do the production, they've worked out those kinks and those hurdles, and then you obviously get some good margins in your product, which is important for the COGS and then important for the gross profit. He said that's a really good strategy for small businesses who are growing to focus on, because sometimes if you go too deep, you know, you're just sitting there with empty buildings in a couple of years that you wasted a lot of money on. So again, just sort of nice for me personally to share that story, but nice for me as you know, hearing it from a veteran of big business, which I admire. I've taken so much admiration in learning about people's huge businesses and how they got to get it to where it is today. Because, you know, seeing the hurdles and the fires that we put out on a daily in small businesses, I'm just in quite admiration to watch these companies thrive. And anything I can do to pick the brains of these executives, I find is not only benefit, you know, benefit to our team, but really to all the shareholders, because you learn, you know, information that you might not get anywhere else. So you know, again, it's important to be. I always say it's important to be where the money is, because then you get to learn from these people who made it all. So you know, just a part of our strategy also in terms of being away from just M&A, but working on co-packaging deals. And we're very excited to get this onboarding process now with Troy. His name's Troy in Trailbridge, and pursue getting more mushroom block sales and home grow kits, whether they're Happy Caps or potentially Mr. Caps, into the west of the United States and penetrate other markets.
Okay, great. Sam, I'm gonna unmute you. There's a few people with their hands raised now, so.
Thanks, Maggie, and thanks to the Light Holland leadership team in hosting another Q&A for us shareholders. I want to expand a bit on that news yesterday about Trailbridge Farms. Was really excited to learn that the company is looking to expand into major retail stores in the US. For us loyal shareholders, this is welcoming news, and like really excited to hear that. Was interested around the part at the end around looking ahead, and I'm hoping I hope that this is something that you could answer. I was very intrigued that the Trailbridge Farms is located in Oregon, and as we know, Oregon has opened access to psilocybin. So can you expand a bit about Trailbridge Farms' capabilities and whether or not the product offerings could expand to psilocybin products?
Yeah, right now Trailbridge is really focused on just edible exotic mushrooms, and they do not dabble in any of the psilocybin rules that have been discussed in Oregon. The farmer there is, I think, really excited just to talk to us about like what an overall future looks like together. And at the end of the day, I'm sure if we ever came to him with some ideas and forecasts of what we think we could do in the market, but as of now, that conversation isn't about psilocybin or home grow kits. We're still trying to learn the market there. We're still trying to figure out how some of these supply chains are working, where people are supplying now to some of these retreat centers and everything. And I say this too on a lot of the Q&A, so I apologize if I sound repetitive. I was worried there would be a lot repetitive on this one, to be honest. But I actually like to learn from others' failures. You know, we saw it with the cannabis industry so much. People tried to predict markets that weren't there, and then they just completely tanked after a few years. And we're really learning about companies and how they're doing it. And then I want to do a deep dive with Shashkez and our team to say, hey, what worked, what didn't? Let's emulate what works, and let's get the heck away from things that don't. So the goal is always thinking of the future for psilocybin in all emerging markets. But I would say the direct focus right now is near-term revenue, and that we know and has been proven through these mushroom home grow kits.
Thank you.
Hey, Red Light Holland team, thanks so much for organizing this. My name's Simon Ehrlich. I don't know if my name's in the chat there, but yeah, I have a couple of curiosities. I'm really interested in, this company coming closer and closer towards profitability. And so I have two major curiosities around the farm, as well as following up on this kind of expansion of the wholesale, which I did just want to take a moment to really commend everybody, but maybe particularly Troy, in their effort of greatly expanding kind of the wholesale market here. So that's been really cool to see happen really fast. So my first curiosity related to the farm is, I'm reading a lot of text and about how swiftly revenues could be increased when the farm is up and running. With scaling, I think somewhere around 18 million. Please correct me if that's not the right figure. And so I'm kind of wondering, why are there so many delays? I know it's around wanting to find a better kind of construction company and something to that extent. But if there's such an opportunity to increase revenue so quickly, why not construct it faster to kind of really get that ball rolling? So maybe I'll stop there and then ask my second question after.
It's a very fair question, Simon, and one I'll address is obviously honestly, as our strategy shows. We're really gung-ho on this farm, and we're really, and we still are in terms of where the vision can be. But, I think with our farmers, what happened was, and, keep in mind, I'm talking about Mike Medeiros, Fernando Medeiros, who are Carlton Mushroom Farms out of Ottawa, the presidents of Mushrooms Canada. I mean, these are, really big Canadian farmers. And then guys like Stephen Rody and Nick Furlano and Tanya Herbert, who are part of F&R Mushroom Farms and part of Holborn Mushroom Farms. These are really, really great farmers, some of Canada's best. Probably together, their family has over 100 years of farming. We were building this dream farm together, and we were taking their guidance on how to build this farm. And as we kept sort of adding this and adding that and everything, some of those timelines meant that with the economy and the macro economy the way it was, the cost just got really, really high. So in terms of the forecast and everything we've shared with you on forward-looking financial information that we still project and could still do, that is still the strategy. And so why aren't we getting to that is fair. But my fear, quite candidly, was, whoa, and we almost signed, we technically signed this agreement with a company called Agro Projects out of Poland, and that was a €5.5 million contract. And just as about, we're just as about to go full in on this, I just dialed it back because I was looking at our cash run. I'm looking at the overall company, and we had to be really careful with the way we divest cash into certain areas, and while we're growing other companies too. So, if you think of Red Light Holland as the reserve of cash to get to the path of profitability, I wanted to make sure that we're at a point and a position where we're very comfortable with putting all the money into the farm build that we are, as that first reserve, call it, to make sure that it could get to those eventual numbers. And we took a pause, two main reasons. One, I believe costs are going to come down. There's a big pause. I mean, all anyone has to do is study what's going on in the real estate market right now, with builders not building these, huge condo towers or office towers. A lot of these urban centers, people are trying to figure out like the next housing and affordability and what's going to happen. And what that means is more trades are available. And when more trades are available, it means you can really negotiate with with companies that need work. So, I started to think of all our budgets and I go, well, wow, if I can save $500,000 here, if I could save, 300,000 here, that would add up to that budget that started to increase. So that's one of my main strategies is I believe anyone who's building in this climate will have more leverage to deal with trades coming in. And keep in mind, like, we have a chairman of our board of directors who's built, massive high condo buildings, and we're talking like, 60, 70 stories high. He knows what he's doing, so I pick his brain. The other thing is inflation costs are a lot right now. So my thought, and I had an honest conversation with our farmers about that if it delayed getting mushrooms to production and selling, again, whether it's compost or fresh mushrooms, if people aren't buying as much produce at this present moment, when do we think that's going to happen? Well, we think that's when interest rates are going to come down and when people have more disposable income. And right now it's tight. And I'm sure all of us on this phone can talk to, or on the Zoom rather, friends, family, mentors, whatever it may be, at any level, from very wealthy to to those who are just getting by. A lot of people aren't servicing that debt right now. And when you're not servicing your debt well, it means you're not eating well. That's the relation. Like, it's crazy to say, but you're not going out and buying as much fresh produce. You're not buying blueberries for $6.99. So you're not buying mushrooms because, that is now considered a luxury item. So as we disclosed in the about AEM, even in New Brunswick, and we disclosed this in MD&A, mushroom sales have slowed a bit. So back to how that relates to the build is, let's get out of this shitstorm of a terrible economy right now, and our governments need to figure this stuff out rapidly. And I think we're starting to see interest rates come down. And then let's have consumer confidence. And when consumer confidence comes in, the delay, I don't think, will change when that enters. So, you can't predict markets, you can't time economies, but hopefully there's more disposable income for the people once that farm is ready. So a delay, as we mentioned, until spring for excavation, that 6, 7, 8, 9 month delay, whatever it is, I think will help us get to a point when it's ready and complete, where the economy will be turned around and people are just buying mushrooms in droves again. So that's part of my strategy. And the other part of the strategy is interest rates, we just saw 2 basis points in the States come down last week, we believe are coming down. So when you're borrowing, money to build the farm as well, that just means we're gonna have cheaper interest rates. So if you think of the overall budget and when we think the economy will really come back into produce, it sort of works well for us. So we're still just as optimistic, but we're patient and we don't want to make mistakes. And we're really carefully working on the budget to get to excavation in spring. And if there's any changes, we'll update you. But that still remains the goal.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. So just to kind of crystallize from my own head, what I'm hearing is there's some concerns around consumer demand for these kinds of products, really kind of meeting where your initial expectations might have been, and so there's some hesitancy to kind of move forward while also seeing opportunity as interest rates come down to have a lower rate mortgage, do it more aggressively.
Sorry, Simon, I interrupted you. I think that one of the things that's really neat working with partners who have been doing this for decades is they don't really have concerns in the long term. There's cycles. They always say, we've seen this in cycles of mushroom sales. You talk to blueberry farmers, I'm friends with a lettuce farmer. It's cycles of produce and in spending. So it's how do you be prepared and ready for when you get out of that cycle? So we believe, especially with the benefits of mushrooms, especially with all the great press on mushrooms, a lot of free press, a lot of earned media on mushrooms, learning about their health benefits. I'm talking now just like the edible ones that you can get at a grocery store. We're seeing a lot of positive information come out. So I think it's just like kind of an ebb and a flow thing. And right now we're at a downturn on the cycle, but we're very optimistic we will turn out of that, and that we should be prepared and ready for it for when we're out of it.
Thank you. Do you have time to entertain my second question? Or
yeah, man, I'm here for you. I just might have to go get my plug for my computer because I'm looking at my battery life, but we're here.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for naming that. Yeah. So my second curiosity is around the profit margin on these 2 kilogram grow kits. Like I do a little bit of my own growing at home, and I recognize that you have input costs of labor and shipping and marketing and packaging, and you're shipping them pretty far, and $20 is the retail price. And I know that Costco or Longo's or any of these retailers are taking some off the top, as they would, right? And so I guess I'm kind of, without, I mean, if you can say the actual profit margin, assuming there is any, that's great, and understanding also if you can't. But I guess what I'm really wondering is, I see so much expansion here and so much cope with in the United States and Europe. And what I'm really wondering is how much of what order of magnitude or impact can this make on more closely achieving profitability?
Yeah, another tremendous question. I mean, there's a lot of companies that just show revenue growth, but they don't show profit growth. You know, that's everything we're trying not to do. We just want to show actual revenue growth that leads to profitability. So there's different channels, and you know, I won't get to the specifics of our COGS and logistics and you know what retailer charges what, because that's the other thing we have to factor in. There's certain retailers that you know are wonderful to work with for a small upcoming company in terms of their wholesale price. And then there's others that like it's really difficult because your margins are very thin. And then there's, you know, returns or there's listing fees. So it is a dangerous game, this consumer packaged goods, when you get into into these big corporate companies. But then again, it's you need them and they're typically wonderful to work with and your greatest shot at success, but you have to understand it all. So you know, some have great margins, right? For the same kits, some have great margins. Where I will tell you our margins are just absolutely terrible is Amazon. I mean, there's some like Amazon was great for us as a billboard, and I think it was really good for like getting these kits on the radar of people. People often search trends on Amazon, and it helped with retailers learning about our product, and it helped get us data. It helped show us like strong months, slow months. It was really important for that, and to be honest, it really helped with logistics, shipping. You know, working with third-party logistics companies, getting it over the border, making sure these kits don't sit too long in customs because they got to get to an American consumer, which is part of the reason why now we're dealing with an American business in Oregon to help get them out more efficiently. So it varies is the answer. And some are really good. I mean, we're talking, you know, close to 100% margins on some of them, but some are zero. I mean, Amazon, I think we might make 8 cents a kit or something. So we're refocusing our Amazon strategy, which is why we're not as bullish on Amazon as we once were. If you talk to a lot of companies, actually, they'll say the same thing between FBA fees and just, you know, shipping delays and stuff like that. We need people to get products quickly, and we need good reviews, and we need people to enjoy these kits. And sometimes that Amazon process just takes too long to get into consumers' hand, which hurts the results of the mushrooms growing as well. So we're cognizant to all these things. That takes me back to the last Q&A, actually. Someone asked me about like they thought I sounded defensive and not learning. Well, I actually took a lot of those points from the last Q&A and made sure we could speak about this stuff a little more calmly this time. So, you know, there are mistakes and there are ways to get it in the hands of consumers quicker who enjoy it and get better reviews. And there's stuff that doesn't work, and the margins just vary though at the end of the day. And ultimately, you know, we envision Happy Caps being an overall cash flow positive company if we keep to this strategy. It's doing well as a standalone company. We're very proud of what Happy Caps is doing.
Thanks for sharing. I would love to hear a little bit from Troy, having also just Troy, you're relatively new to the space, and just love to kind of get your insight. But I also maybe just want to hit pause and recognize there's other folks that have questions. So if there's time at the end, yeah, would welcome that. So thanks a lot, Todd. I really appreciate your time. So
Troy, jump in though. Feel free to add to that.
Sorry, I just had to unmute. Hi, Simon. Yeah, great question. I think Todd really did touch on our retail strategy. And, you know, for myself, I've got over 20 years of consumer packaged goods experience. So, you know, as we've unraveled this, it really is about understanding what we're selling, understanding that it's a live good and, you know, the logistics and the touch points. So when we look at Costco, for example, great partner for us, their margin expectations and their business model aren't, you know, the same as per se a Walmart or a Loblaw. So they're a great partner for us. The logistics and the way we have it set up is they pick it up directly from the farm. It's on one truck, it goes to their warehouse and then right to each location. So that's important for us, understanding what we're selling. And we believe that, you know, we want to continue to find partners like that. We're working with distributors where we ship directly to them. They get it out. It really is about the touch points and not having it on 3 or 4 or 5 different trucks, because every time you move it or shake it, we have to remember what we're selling. It's a living mushroom block. So it gets excited and sometimes it grows, and, you know, which in turn creates some of those negative customer reviews and ratings. So, you know, in a nutshell, it really is about looking for profitable channels, profitable partners, and replicating, you know, some of the things we've done with Costco. We've brought on some brokers that I've worked with in past lives in the US that, you know, have offices situated in Bentonville, Arkansas. They have a team that calls on Walmart. They have teams that call on Costco. So we're really taking all of those things we've learned and all of the insights and sales history from Costco and trying to share that with as many large retailers as we can to create that excitement. We now know that, you know, we can turn a pallet out of Costco in a week. Like it was eye-opening, and I think it was a pleasant surprise for our entire team. But we're really excited about where we're at today, and we have a strong belief in where we can take it. So I hope that answered your question, Simon. And if there's anything, you know, we want to take offline, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thanks a lot for speaking to all of that, Troy and Todd. Thanks everybody for your time today.
And I'll throw in some additions to that. Like this is a great, I mean, this is a great story, this Happy Cap story. And we want to kind of keep going hard on it. Like, you know, put the pedal to the metal, so to speak. You think about even getting into Costco and how valuable it is to us. We get, for anyone who buys a kit, I would say 75, 80% of them are scanning the barcode and getting the instructions on the website. So the amount of hits now we're getting on the Happy Caps website is and it's free. Like we're not marketing for that. We're not doing Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising. They're going because, and that's how important a retailer like Costco is. So they're now like zeroing in on Happy Caps, learning about the brand. So Troy came to me a few weeks ago, and this isn't material. It's just about, you know, product innovation. And we're thinking like, what other SKUs can we grow from Happy Caps? And it's something we've been dabbling with for a couple of years right now, but we're worried that we would just waste money on R&D and then on marketing a product and trying to get what they call it, the cost per like the cost per customer, like the CAC, they call it, the customer acquisition cost. And you know, how much you have to market to get a customer to then get what they call the LTV cost, which is the lifetime value. And a lot of these models that a lot of companies were using, say it costed $150 to get that customer in your database through marketing. Were they then spending at least $155 so you're making money on acquiring that customer? And a lot of those models were failing. I mean, failing. This is why we're getting all these calls from a lot of supplement companies and stuff, because they just couldn't keep that model up. Then people lose interest and then people aren't buying the products anymore. There's also, I think, a lot of customers that just aren't as loyal to brands anymore because there's so many new and innovative brands. We were just at the Canadian Health and Food show in at the Direct Energy Center in Toronto over the weekend. And I mean, there's some great brands out there, but how loyal are the customers to them? So back to that sort of lifetime value customer and why we think we can now do some innovation with Happy Caps is getting free hits on the website, call it 20,000 unique hits a month that we didn't have to market for. Troy and I are thinking about like, what can we add to the website while people are looking for home grow kit instructions to then maybe check out, put in their box and leave. So I mean, I don't think this stuff's material. We're working on a gummy formula right now. So we're working on mostly lion's mane because it's a really big mushroom in terms of what people are studying for cognitive benefits. And I believe is it lion's mane and is it cordyceps or what's the second agreement?
Shiitake.
Shiitake. Oh, great. So right up our you know, our knowledge base, and obviously that's what we work with. So you know, we think that if we can get a gummy out there, and again, it's not going to be like imminently launched. By the way, there's a lot of R&D that goes into this, and Shashkas helps with this tremendously because we don't want to put shit products out there. We want to make sure we put a good product out there that consumers can enjoy and that we're proud of and that actually work. So, you know, again, though, growing that brand is a big focus. And then if you think of the retail relationships we have, Troy can then pick up the phone and say, hey, you got our home grow kits. Some of that's just a seasonality thing. How about in the off season, a supplement that has a great shelf life that is, you know, a brand build that people and consumers are familiar with an easily consumable product that have shiitake and lion's mane in them instead of just doing it fresh. So this is how our brain is working in terms of evolving this company. And again, it's not like we're launching it tomorrow, but we are doing R&D on it right now. And I love the fact that we're thinking of retaining that customer now that we got them. The Mushroom Man. He's next. I like that. This could go either way, people. Get ready to mute him. It's sort of breaking up, Mushroom Man. There he is.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer my question. I was wondering if you could go into a little bit more detail about the smart. Oh, here, one sec, one sec. Oh, here. Is it better? Here.
Maybe turn off your video. Maybe that'll help your volume.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay.
It's cutting in and out.
Oh, no.
Should we maybe just pause and come back to him, Maggie?
Oh, here, sorry. Can you, is this better at all?
Yeah, that's great, actually. Thanks.
Okay, yes. I was wondering if you could kindly talk a bit more about the smart shops over in the Netherlands. And yeah, just there was some talk about how you're reducing hours in those smart shops and I guess the overall strategy.
Yeah, it's a great question. One we'll be, very upfront and honest with. So the Utrecht store we're really proud of. It's called Mushroom and More. We converted it from sort of a true smart shop. We put in some healthier products. We gave it a softer, kinder feel, more organic, more authentic. You walk in there, it feels sort of like just like a cool coffee shop. Think of it like that. Like you feel comfortable in there. Really knowledgeable employees in there, and in a college town specifically. So we're focused on a lot of education and information as well in that shop to make sure. And I've been saying this for 4 years. Most people just sell magic truffles in the Netherlands like fireworks. Like they don't care. There's like big flashy things. There's no regulatory measures on their packs. There's no telecounseling support. There's no innovation for the end consumer to make sure they're using it responsibly, which is absolutely a mandate of our teams. And Shashkas has worked tirelessly on that, and that shop really works well for that. So great shop, growing shop. I would say offhand, it's probably not profitable yet because of the changes we made in it. I don't have the financial, of this month, but we believe in its long-term vision of that shop. The Oos store, however, Oos, sorry if you're Netherlands, I typically and I probably should get it better, but I pronounce the cities wrong. That shop hasn't really worked out very well for this mushroom and more mentality. Listen, it's just a harder, like to be honest, just a harder town. Like they don't want this kind of feel good mental health, body health shop. The consumers there just want to like have fun, back to the fireworks stuff. And we don't want to sell it that way. And so you get into this kind of moral compass of decision making, and yeah, we could go down this path, but if we think people are using and abusing products and not doing it the way that we think, we want to make sure helps, because the more we help, the more we can advocate with governments and say, hey, look what we did. And in that town, the health and wellness mentality just for some reason isn't working. So the shop definitely loses more money than it makes. In the MDMA, I mentioned how we were likely going to either close it or look to selling it. It looks like we're selling the shop, quite honestly. Nothing's solidified yet, but we have a very strong conversation going on right now. So we'll probably be offloading that, and I'll announce it to the market if it comes to fruition. And if it doesn't, we'll probably likely close it, is the truth. So, but I do think we have a sale. I never know what I can say on these Q&As, but I think the fact that I told everybody to come to it at 11 o'clock and then we did that fairly, I'm allowed to kind of share. Also, it's like pretty immaterial in the end of the day, considering our cash position and market cap, because it's not like a huge store. So I'd say we'll likely offload that shop in the coming weeks. And keep in mind, when we do that, if we do that, that saves you on your lease payments. That saves you on your burn, right? So yeah, we won't show certain revenues for those months coming in, but at the long-term path and strategy to this path to profitability strategy, that's one we don't think can turn a corner. So if we can offload it, we will.
Yes, thank you so much. And
why the Mushroom Man? Tell me, like, what's the deal? Like, you obviously love mushrooms. What's that with you?
Oh no, I'm just I don't know, trying to be funny, I guess.
That's it. Just thought it'd bring some happiness. But I was wondering as well, just moving forward with the strategy, do you think home or sorry, the smart shops would open up in places like Canada?
Well, the smart shop model is interesting because obviously it's very legal and they're next to like mainstream stores and everything. But, Shashkas and I would really like to see much more careful selling in all of them. And some are great in the Netherlands. I don't want to paint them all under the same brush. There's some really informed, incredible educational and knowledgeable salespeople in a lot of these shops. It would have to be like the cannabis shops if it were to ever come to Canada, in my opinion. I also think it should be a little bit more facilitator based. Like, I really believe there should be a tracking system where you absolutely understand your consumer, you understand the consumption of your consumer, you understand the effects, and are there actual benefits from selling these products to your consumer. So I think there needs to be a lot more, call it AI based knowledge from a consumer to following up through apps, and it's almost more personalized appointments, not quite like with Medicare practitioners, but really one-on-one. Think of the way you might talk to an insurance agent or someone. So we need responsible use, and this is one of the things we always tell the governments. I don't think people should just be able to buy it at their free will. Everyone should have the right to try, but I do believe that we have a duty and a responsibility to make sure it is working for the consumer, because there can be, as there can be in a lot of substances, really bad results. And by the way, when I say this, I wish alcohol was sold this way too. If we think of the amount of deaths, I believe WHO states that alcohol contributes to over 3 million deaths worldwide a year. Like, we got to be careful the way we sell things, and I don't think we should make the mistakes that we made with other products. We should be much more responsible with magic mushrooms one day. What I will say is what I'm really proud of. We sell a lot through SR Wholesale to the smart shops. We sell a lot of magic mushrooms responsibly, with a lot of great labeling on them under different brands. And we're north of, I guess I can share these numbers, but like we're north of what is it, 1.5 million Troy, you 1.5 million grams of magic truffles, basically, that we're selling through SR Wholesale.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, if you think of the amount that's supplied of psilocybin, say from a Compass Pathways to a large trial, like, Sarah, how many grams would that be? We just got to get her off mute, Maggie.
Yeah, we've sold 50 times more than the largest clinical trial that has been conducted by Compass. The last year only, yeah.
I mean, so when you start to think, sometimes people come down on the company and they're looking at these revenues and they look at the stock price, and I get it. Trust me, I think I'm still the largest shareholder, and nobody wants the stock price to be higher more than me. And I think I disclosed I bought some shares on the open market just a couple weeks ago. That's how much I believe in the future. But that's an accomplishment. Like, you hear of all the FDA and all the obviously the advancements on a different model. But when you think of our self-regulatory measures, our telecounseling support, the app that's now over almost 1,000 users that we've shared with David Nutt and Drug Science, like, people are taking notice that we are doing this very well. So yeah, is it in the hundreds of millions of revenues? No. Is it a small market in the Netherlands that we believe we're perfecting and doing it as well as we can be doing it in terms of a careful, cautious process, again, with education and information? I mean, this is from a concept 4 years ago to where we're at today. I'm very, very proud. And by the way, it's going to take time to get to where I still think it can get to, but we take pride in how we've done it so far.
Does anyone have any further questions?
So impressed. Simon's back.
Hey, yeah, thanks for taking another question. Also just being cognizant of time, was this intended to end at 12? There's free reign to ask more, or?
I think we're unlimited, right, Maggie?
Yep, we can go ahead.
Okay, yeah. A curiosity I have is around the amount of retail, like Mr. Caps and maybe even um, Red Light Holland branded merch. Like I saw in the last financial statement that there's a lot of money kind of held up in those assets. Any like how's all of that going? Any plans on how to move that faster? Any hopes or aspirations for the future with respect to merch, or how does that kind of fit into the larger strategy? Yeah.
So Simon, a great question. There's a lot of pivots that happen in business. And by the way, there's a lot of learning that happens in business too. I mean, I'm not perfect. The team's not perfect. The board of directors isn't perfect, but all we can do is our fiduciary responsibility to grow this company and learn as we go a lot of the time too. And by the way, not only learn as we go, but learn as other companies go and other markets go. Like what's working, what's not working. And there was a time, and it's similar to the advertising model we talked about in marketing online. Like we thought we could push even more merch and market it, but we thought we could really blast out Happy Caps and sorry, Mr. Caps, through the support of Wiz Khalifa and that team. And we believe that marketing model would get us customers and repeat customers and lifetime value customers, subscription customers, buying hats, buying shirts, and not leaving us. And again, consumer spending habits are down. And maybe all of you can even ask yourselves, like, have you personally shopped less, buying less clothing brands right now, sort of making do with what you have? Are you being tighter because your mortgage payments are higher, or gas prices are higher, or your grocery bills are higher? So, and again, if anyone wants to answer that, feel free to. But I know the circles that I'm in, at any level of wealth, they're all saying the same thing. They're just like being tighter on their spending. And full disclosure, it is really hard to grow a business in a tough economy. I mean, like it's another extra pressure on all of senior management here. So, back to the clothing, we when Red Light Holland stock was, I think, trading like 30, 40 million shares a day, and that was its own marketing in itself, and people were buying hats and shirts, and we're doing like, decent little revenue on that without any marketing. As we started marketing some of it, we didn't see that return. As we started marketing Mr. Caps really heavy, we weren't seeing that return. So our real big approach right now, and it's not to say this is going to be our approach forever, is absolutely to get stuff into retail stores. And so we're working on Mr. Caps to get bigger retail distribution, comparable to, call it the Happy Caps, into Costco's, et cetera, like that. And right now we believe this is our best strategy. And by the way, I still bring up, it's funny, I'm wearing the old logo today. It's sort of strategic because I wanted people to see how far we've come. And I also love rocking like, the old retro hats. But we've been around now, like we're becoming veterans of industry, almost 5 years publicly traded. We're proud of that. Think of how many companies in our sector have not even made it past 2 or 3 years and are folded, insolvency, bankruptcy. So, but I love even our logo and our shirt still. But I have conversations with people who own clothing stores and retail. Like I would still love to see that distribution. One of our tougher projects for sure was the Wisdom Truffle, and we were the first to acknowledge that. But we are sitting with a bulk load, and Shashka's currently is having conversations with an Asian company to distribute them, at least the ones we have still sitting in inventory. So retail distribution is absolutely our focus to sell any of our products. And I still think, people love the Red Light Holland hoodies. I would love to see more people wearing them. I love the brand. I love the new brand, the old brand. And I think it really stands for something, which is, again, this right to try, the access to psilocybin. And we've always said we're the people's company. And I believe people still believe that. I just think it gets conflated with the stock price being difficult. And of course, that stews up other emotions, which makes it difficult at times. But I respect and honor every single one of you for standing by us as we continue to grow. And I think we're proving that in the financials quarter after quarter.
Great. Thanks, Todd. I'm just going to go ahead and unmute you, Joseph. You can ask your question.
We lose Joseph?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Would anyone else like to ask a question? Including like the amount of grays in my beard since we've taken this company public. Hi, Curtis. Curtis, we'll unmute you. Maggie, can you unmute? Sorry, Curtis, sir.
I don't see a Curtis, but I just unmuted the Mushroom Man.
Curtis is there. You can see him. He's taking his camera off. He's wearing like a suit or a blue
Oh,
blazer.
there we go. Sorry.
No problem.
Unmute. Okay, thanks. Sorry, I joined late. I'm not sure if I'm doing this right for my phone. I respect everything that you've done so far with the company, Todd. I guess my first question, I've got two. First one is just, is Bruce Linton still involved with the company very much?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk to Bruce. I talk to Bruce at least once a week.
Cool.
You know, and it's not to say that, you know, we always align on strategy, but I admire him. But feel free to ask questions about Bruce, and maybe I can answer them.
For sure. I mean, obviously he did a great job there with Canopy before being ousted there, but I guess how involved is he with helping you with decision making with the company here at Red Light?
Bruce loves to give me advice, but I think out of his own mouth, he would say he doesn't want to sort of persuade me into thinking a certain way that's going against either my gut or my board of directors' gut. I really value the board of directors as well, by the way, very experienced business people and entrepreneurs on that team. And of course, I admire our C-suite team, which you see today. So I would say that it's a team effort. Bruce, I believe, and I think I said this on the last Q&A because it's a lot of our long talks that he gets that now is a very difficult time than then. And when I mean then, in the cannabis days, there was access to capital every other week, right? And by the way, they had like 2-3 years. You can go back to their stock chart. They did nothing for a while.
Yeah,
there. It was,
totally.
I think after 4 years, we're 4.5. I think they started to get their jumps right around the 2.5, 3 year mark. But you know, there was times it was like a nothing company. And
Right.
Bruce will share with you, he was begging, you know, their tier 2 banks to get him capital and selling the story and selling the vision. And
Right.
I mean, I still do to this day, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
So I think he would first and foremost say there's a time to be aggressive, and when that little crack of a door opens up, don't just sit back slowly. And I think he realizes it's not right now. You know, access to capital is terrible in the markets. And the other thing he'll still say is always open up your eyes to potential merger and acquisition. And
Right.
you won't feel that you're fairly valued compared to someone else's value. But if it makes sense for shareholders and makes sense for management, you got to do it, or at least you got to propose it, entertain it, engage in it. And
Right.
so he's brought a lot of potential opportunities to the table. He loves the cautious approach, even though like you could see he's like the Incredible Hulk. He like wants to break out of that skin because that's all he ever did was be aggressive and go. He's a bit of a cowboy that way, and I admire that in him. And trust me, like, you know, my image is kind of like this thoughtful, sensitive, like soft guy. Like I'm pretty fierce. You know, people know me, like I'm pretty fierce. I do not like not being aggressive right now either. Like this slow, cautious stuff is important.
Yeah.
But when that door opens up, trust me, I want to go. Like
Totally.
I'm itching at the seams here to get something moving. So
I can imagine. Yeah. I guess the second part of my question, you kind of talked about it a bit there, rather. Where do you see the vision of the company in 5 years from now? Is it too hard to really see past the regulatory things that could happen in North America, or do you see a vision that maybe is just retail based, or where do you see it in 5 years from now?
you know, I used to think I knew this answer for the 5-10 year forecast. And then what I have learned in my infancy as an entrepreneur, you know, learning on the go and also having, you know, a great team around me that continues to learn and evolve with me is, you know, the production farming distribution model of if we, you know, especially in consumer packaged goods is great. So like, I just like, that's a core that I think underlying will get us to the profitability that we need to be to. This is our strategy and our vision.
Right.
You know, and we have on our deck the triangular approach. Where do I see it? I see, and I mentioned this earlier, you might not have been on the call, that I don't want to try to project what certain governments are thinking about in terms of policy and regulating these products. I believe it is conversations that cannot be ignored. I mean, the world is in a mental health crisis. It feels like, I don't know about you all, but it feels angrier to me than ever. And I don't know if people get too caught up in Twitter and timelines, but like, the fact that there's wars going on across the world, the fact that there's like, even our political leaders, they're so nasty with each other. Like, I don't care who you like or not. It's just smear campaigns and this is like a overall mentality that I think human beings are so quick to be nasty with each other. How does that relate to magic mushrooms? It helps you be less nasty.
Totally.
It breaks down your priors. It takes the brick off your chip of the wall and allows you to be a human again. So, Curtis, our thoughts are that the conversations aren't going away, and that both parties need to wake up to the fact that we need access now. We need to help people now. It's especially post-traumatic stress disorder. We need to help our veterans. We need to help our first emergency responders. And ultimately, we need to, whether you have terminal illness or even the fact that, something may be small in the grand scheme of what other people are going through, but it is very true to you. So we're not stopping on these conversations, but I don't have a timeline.
For sure. And I guess I probably missed this as well, but if I did, you don't have to answer. Is the farm going to get started in spring next year? What's your expectation with that?
And we did touch on it, but I'll rapidly touch on it again. The goal is absolutely to get into excavation in the spring. We continue to work on budgets. We continue to hammer trades to bring them down in pricing. We continue to work and look to, we're close to figuring out some lending piece of the farm too, which is a big part of the strategy. There's a couple of different lenders who are really intrigued by the project. Which obviously would be great, because then Red Light wouldn't have to access all their capital as the first lender on the project. And so, there's a lot of strategy involved. I hope it comes together for the spring. We still really believe in those forecasts of what we can do with that farm and how successful we think it could be. And what I also mentioned earlier, Curtis, sorry, I feel like I'm talking too fast, but we interest rates are coming down, which helps potential lending be better for us.
Right.
So we're not, just boring over the winter when there's not a lot of work being done, and those are costs that you're carrying. And the other thing that we believe is just on the macro economy, that hopefully by the time we're at production, people will have more disposable income again and actually, out shopping produce at the numbers that we were used to a couple of years ago.
Sure. Thanks for taking the time to answer my questions. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it. The Mushroom Man's back.
Hello, yes, I am back. Can you hear me this time?
We got you, man.
Okay. Would you be able to speak a bit more about the farm care health initiative that was announced recently?
I'm so happy you asked. Of course. So, I have kids, right? I have a 9 and a 5-year-old, and the amount of shit that they eat and all their friends eat, and just no one's focused on like good health, it seems like. And then, by the way, though, when you want to be focused on good health and you see how expensive food is, and don't get me wrong, my salary's disclosed. I do well, right? My wife has a very, senior job and does very well herself. I've done well in the past through media money, and I'm still coming back and going like, and I'm going to swear, like, what the fuck is going on with our grocery bills? It just, and then because we're doing our best to get our kids eating, raspberries, blueberries, bananas, strawberries, all these healthy things, carrots. We love when they eat their fruits and vegetables. And then that's when it like kind of popped in my head, coupled with being at the mushroom conference in Vegas. I think that was like last November. Oh no, I think that was last February when we did the last Q&A actually. And people were talking about, how do we make produce more affordable? There was a lady who talked about a similar program, so this isn't proprietary farm care health, but it was more of a non-for-profit, much smaller. And I just thought, why am I waiting? Like, this is an idea I have. We have a former health minister on staff who's an advisor who can just at least help the lobbying and advocacy efforts to get this conversation out there. Like, why are we waiting? So I just figured we'd put it out there. There's no cost to us. I mean, I listen, Tony Clement, the Honorable Tony Clement, it's not a tiny retainer. He'd probably even be embarrassed to say how small it is, like to help get these conversations going. So in terms of the capital to get this initiative off the ground, it's literally next to nothing. It's like, anyway, it's peanuts. So, and Tony's doing that. And Tony's setting up meetings weekly already for the Farm Care Health Initiative. And part of the strategy, though, is yes, of course, I want our kids to eat healthy. I believe we need to eat healthy again, as you hear. I'm not getting political, but it's just as you hear RFK Jr. say. And part of that, though, is food insecurity is a very real thing. A lot of, tough, impoverished communities have no access to fresh farm fresh food. And like, why are we delaying? If I have this idea and everyone seems to like it on our team, and by the way, if it could lead into better sales for mushrooms one day, so that like helps, because the idea is that either insurance companies or governments would give you your breaks, much like your insurance card would, or your OHIP does for, call it big pharma medication. If we can get breaks on farm fresh food, it wouldn't hurt the margins of the farmers or of the retailers. So it's sort of like this two-pronged approach. Of course, let's make sure people eat healthy again, but also let's sell more mushrooms if we can get a program like this off the ground. So I love the initiative. I think it's like, single-handedly one of the most important things we can do as an empathetic company with a moral compass is help Mind, which we're doing in the Netherlands legally, and trying to work with Health Canada Imports and Seacrest Labs and other laboratories here to get a standardized product and get that out, but also body health. And how do we have people, consuming better products, especially, when it comes to the very legal, very, just produce type products and farm fresh foods. Our children need to eat better. It is like, if you guys have kids of your own, you probably see it. And to me, it's like one of the most infuriating things that happens to me on a daily. And I want to change habits. I want to be a part of change. Do you like the initiative?
Thank you for answering the question. I'm still undecided on it overall.
Is there anything that
it's still pretty fresh?
Like any like, are we not describing it well enough? Like any sort of color we can give to it?
No, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I'm looking, and obviously I want the financial aspect of it to be positive, and I know it's sort of experimental at this time. So yeah, I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Like I'm sure, you have a grand vision for it, and I want it to be fruitful.
Here's how my brain works, all right? And big hypotheticals, there's, nothing material. There's these conversations haven't been had yet. But think of this, like this is where my brain goes when we talk about 5 years from now. Imagine you partner with a couple of different companies. You partner with a telehealth company, and there's big ones in Canada that and some parties think that's a two-tiered health system. Others think $50 to get to a telehealth company and get to a doctor that can give you time at 2 p.m. and let you know if you really need to go to the emergency room. That saves time in your day. You don't have to take off half a day of work. You don't have to lose $400. You can still pick your kid up at school, all these things. So imagine a world where you're working with a company like that has access to practitioners. Those practitioners on a mass scale can help learn about people's diets and prescribe better food. Now imagine another company, and again, this is a, like, no conversation has been had, but this is the vision, like a Costco, who have a Costco card. Imagine there's some built-in development within that Costco card where you get a food prescription to go to your Costco to get your produce. And a company like Costco, a big retailer, would love something like that. You go, you have the exclusive arrangement with them. You buy produce, and that discount gets put right on your card as you ring it through. So, this is kind of how the vision works. There's a lot to build out in this vision, and we've said it's a pilot project. It's completely in its infancy, but I'm walking into every office I can walk into, and I'm doing it with Tony, and I'm sharing them this vision. And one thing I'd like to say is I believe in this negative world we're in right now, people do like optimistic thinkers. Doesn't mean it can always accomplish it, but what are the contraindications to this plan? What is negative about this plan? Like, it only helps everybody. So I think I'm a great salesperson, so I'm going to continue to pitch this to as many people as I see. And ultimately, hopefully, if it ever came to fruition, way down the road, because it'll take a lot to build up, we could be the exclusive mushroom supplier to it. That's the way I think.
Yeah, maybe one more thing, Todd, it is a win-win situation, right? Also for insurance companies and governments, because if people eat healthy, they get less sick, right? They require less medical interventions. And I think that's sort of the thinking ahead, that when we're having these conversations, people get it, right? They get it, and it's more about just putting things into play and creating this type of streamlined sort of idea, which does exist in small scales in the US. So it's not like totally new. It does exist in small scales, and I really hope we can get it into Canada. I think I was very excited when you launched
Wow.
this.
And I laugh though when Shashkas talks about it being a win-win, because it is a win-win, but in this very peculiar world we live in, maybe certain organizations don't want this to be the solution to helping human beings. Like, I'm not going to get into the
Of
pharma.
course, if you're against the Coca-Cola industry, they will not be happy, right?
So, it's really interesting when you're promoting health and well-being, and how others don't want that being disruptive, who have, all the corporate power. So but we'll do our small part. We're going to fight it, because I got one life, and we have a great team here who believes in helping human beings. And this is just another initiative to get out there to do so. And by the way, if someone on a way bigger scale just learns about it, then does it, and it wasn't even us, what a great thing to be a part of as a company, and shareholders to know that this idea got out there. And maybe someone did it with who has 500 million that they've raised, or a really big company. Think of like a, I don't know, like a mass, like a Walmart, say. If they go and do it and they're helping human beings, fantastic. But we'd like to be a part of it for sure.
Does anyone have any other questions? You can use the reaction button to raise your hand.
How many people are we at?
We have about 45 on the call.
It looks like people are, well, why don't we give like a 10-second window here for any other questions? Put your hand up or just show yourself on camera. And as we're waiting, and in case any don't come in. Oh, we got Mushroom Man's back.
Hi again. Thank you so much. Now,
Did we lose him? I think we lost him.
sorry,
No,
sorry about that.
no problem.
Have you considered potentially going into any of those like shipping container, like garden type of things, and pursuing remote communities, or even I'm seeing these in places like Montreal?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, yeah, I look at, like, I know the guys at Hardy. I talk to that CEO often. His name's Jonathan Murray. So they have that model. We've shared information back and forth with it. I've definitely talked to him about exploring this model. Or I know that our farmers out of Pickering, like, they know a Japanese company that makes these shipping containers too. So it's exploring it. A lot of it is, when you make these types of investments, do you have the offtake agreements or distribution agreements to support them? And a lot of those are on a much smaller scale. So is it worth it on a cost basis? That's what you have to factor in. Like, I think the capacity for a lot of these farms is only like really like it's maybe only a couple £1,000 a week. So great for little communities if you can get them there. And obviously they're very fresh. Like, I do like the model. I got to be honest. It's something we do explore and are looking into. And are there holes in certain areas? Without a doubt, Mushroom Man, that maybe could be filled easier by getting these containers out there. What I will say is, like, it as a business as a whole is difficult. You still got to find good cultivators, good pickers, good start with good growers. Like, people power is still a big thing, and you kind of can't just drop a container and expect a farmer to be converted overnight from just someone who's jumping in that container to try to operate it. So operations are key, and so if you're going to do a container model, you got to make sure you have good operators, or you're not going to have good mushrooms. But it is something I'm exploring.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, like, you know, we're exploring a lot of things sort of off topic, but you know, and again, it's not material, but like Troy, who's our, as you know, our national VP of sales, like Troy's background is distribution of RTD, ready to drink drinks like Red Bull and stuff. And then he dealt with Dream Water. You could see his resume when we hired him. And like we, you know, we were catching wind of this new product that's getting out there. The former founders of BioSteel are selling these quench drinks. I don't know if you've seen them, like energy hydration drinks. And so like Troy and I are talking to them. We kind of met the guys one night to see what they're doing. And then next thing you know, Troy's like, hey, we got an exclusive to sell it for convenience and gas, which is like his right up his alley. So like part of that SR Wholesale Canada, like, you know, new product we have, it's not really material or anything. It's just like Troy's going to help with sales for these quench drinks. And then, you know, could quench drinks ever have mushrooms in them one day? I don't know. Like, you know, when you think of where it could all go. So, you know, we're always thinking of extra ways to bring in revenue in the company. And I think while we're dead focused, obviously, on psilocybin being the end goal and helping human beings, and now obviously fresh mushrooms between farming and fresh and home grow kits and distribution to mass retailers, like, here's another thing that Troy's is like, I'm going to work on. Like, you know, maybe we can get a big contract in, you know, X convenience stores across the country and get a small piece of that. So we're always thinking of innovative ways to make money to obviously increase shareholder value. Are there any questions for Shashkaz and on the sort of psilocybin side of the business and emerging markets, where that's going? It seems like a really positive call. Others in the past haven't been, so it's you know, this job's not for the faint of heart. Don't get me wrong. We signed up for it. We're doing it. You know, there's a lot of compliance around what we do. There's a lot of headaches. There's a lot of like long conversations. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of corporate governance. There's a lot of, you know, self-regulatory measures, as I mentioned. And of course, there's tremendous focus on near-term growth to make money. Like, we got to make money. That's the end of the goal. We've got to make money for our shareholders, and we got to turn this, you know, path to profitability and make it like come to fruition in this strategy that we're doing. And one thing we do know is that we're focused on a patient way to get there. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but you know, what is the long-term strategy to get there? And you know, luckily, you know, we have a great team to help get us there. And I shouldn't say luckily, like, you know, between Troy, Shashkaz, you know, John coming on, jumping right in it, you know, like Maggie does so much more than just, you know, we were such a small team who literally roll up our sleeves and try to get everything done so we can save on overall costs of general and administrative. We have great consultants on board. So we're just really proud of what we're doing, and we think the path is great. And obviously, you know, let's keep these big retailer commitments going with Costco, and a lot of work behind the scenes, though, ensuring that continues. And let's focus on getting this farm and digging ground in the spring after the thaw, and making sure that we continue to work on that lending piece, and you know, focusing on emerging markets on psilocybin, and figuring out ways to make money, like having a quench brand and trying to sell its products for a small margin. So, you know, we're doing everything we can. The team in the Netherlands is great too. You know, I want to thank Peter, who runs SR Wholesale. It's a really great company. I mean, SR Wholesale is really a big cornerstone for this company, and their relationships and their continued growth over there. And Hans, who's been with us from day one, is doing really good with Mini Champ, which is a homegrown kit farm there that they're learning from our Happy Caps farm for more mass distribution is ultimately the goal. And he's growing a great little magic truffle farm that supports SR Wholesale. So with some intercompany dealings there in terms of, like, you know, being fully vertically integrated. So yes, there's been some challenges, but overall, we like to believe there's been a lot of positive momentum, and we continue to forge this path ahead. So ultimately, I really thank everyone for the positive spirit. Maybe I got to do more Q&As on, like, you know, nice sunny days as opposed to the midst of February and wintry when it seems to be a little bit more hostile. Or maybe that's just a reflection of you really valuing what management is doing, and we're grateful for your support. As you know, I try to make myself available for any and all questions outside of these Q&As. So if you're uncomfortable coming on camera or get a little nervous maybe in front of people to ask questions, Don't hesitate to reach out to Maggie at redlight.co with no M, just co, and she'll set that up. And you know, I don't always have the time. We're pretty busy, but Maggie will tell you. I'll do my best to find something, even if it's 5-10 minutes. And thank you to you all. You know, we're here for more Q&As down the road. What can I tell you? Go buy some homegrown kits at Costco's if you're anywhere across Canada. Let's support the brands. You know, as Tesla shareholders do, they buy Teslas. You know, I can't ever tell you to buy stock. I'll never give financial advice, but I'm allowed to be a promoter of my own products. So please, you know, look to buy some Happy Caps homegrown kits. And we look forward to continuing, you know, this strategy on growth. I appreciate all your time. Hey, who's sharing one? That's fantastic. Or is that Maggie? Thank you all. As you know, we're TRIP on the CSE, we're TRUF on the OTC. We will post this link for those who missed it, or if you want to share it to other investors who are working today and couldn't spend, you know, this great amount of time, almost 2 hours. So for all to review. And once again, we do appreciate everybody's loyalty and support of the company. Spread the word, and we'll talk soon.